All right, everybody. Welcome on in, North Cal Sports Network, where the Giants bats come alive tonight. 17 hits as they crush the Milwaukee Brewers. 13-2 behind 17 hits. How many homers, Cody, was it? 3, 4? Chapman, Yaz, and Carcione. Was that it?
I think it was 3. Yeah.
3? Wow. You know, it was nice to see him get a big lead in the beginning of the game. I needed a Giants win tonight. Not so much for the Giants, but Blake Snell was on the mound, and I needed a victory in my fantasy baseball league. That mattered more than anything else tonight. So, but having the Giants actually hit the ball, and you know, it was nice to see. I mean, it's going to happen, you know, a few times a year, but
hey, you know, even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes.
Yeah. So you know, enjoy the victory tomorrow night's you know, the rubber match. Interesting that they're playing a night game tomorrow. It's usually a Thursday day game.
Yeah.
So I think it's because September kids, they know the Giants. Nobody shows up maybe during the day. I don't know. I think you get more in the daytime than the night, personally. A lot of people just like to go out to the ball yard during the afternoon. But they look well. Snell effective in some ways, in other ways, you know, back to the old Blake Snell, 5 innings, only good for 5 innings. I mean, they had such a big lead, it wasn't that big of a deal. But if it was a tight game, he wasn't going to be much available for into the 6th with his pitch count. So you would like to see him attack the zone more, like he did when he was on that heater for like 6 starts in a row. But you know,
it seems to always be the case with Snell, though. Like you almost, most outings, you feel like, you know, if he could just pound the zone, because he has swing and miss stuff within the zone.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, if you could just attack the zone, you could get 6, 7 out of him pretty regularly, but just constantly working full counts. And I mean, he did what he does. I mean, he gave up 1 run pitching around trouble and got through 5, which is kind of his MO.
Right, exactly. How many did he walk? Like 2 or 3?
I'd have to look at the box score.
Let me see how he did. I've got his line.
The Ortiz that's really what killed him in the second, where it.
Oh, all those pitches, like 12 pitches.
Yeah.
Blake Snell's line tonight, 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, an ERA tonight of 1.8, a whip of 1.2. Not too bad. Just a little over 1 runner on base per inning. But you like to see that whip down around 0.7, 0.8. But you know, he did his job. And Giants bat showed up. I kind of felt like it was over even after the first inning. I didn't think they would hit Snell tonight. And you know,
once they got to 5, it's pretty safe.
Yeah. But I mean, looking here at the you know, if we actually take a look at the box score tonight, the hitting stars, there was several. Let's why don't we just pull that box score up here, and we'll take a look at it and see how. I know they had 17 hits, so StreamYard,
they met their quota.
Yeah. Now tomorrow, watch. Yeah, that's as many hits as they normally get in 3 or 4 games combined.
Whole series.
Fitzgerald 3 for 5. Yaz 2 for 4 with 4 ribbies. Matos comes in, gets 1 at bat, and gets a hit, scores. Ramos was 0 for 4 tonight.
He's been in a little bit of a slump.
Yeah, Ramos is down to 270. Look at that. Chapman's up to 251. Wow, is he going to make me look foolish and hit over 250? Whoa, that would be a shock. But you know, give him the credit. He's playing well. Luciano 1 for 2, still hitting. You know, the guy Marco, he's got the quietest 250 I've ever seen, and it's not a lot of at bats, but it's like you'd think the guy, based on what we're seeing of him, that he's hitting about 088, but
the way people talk about him.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to just let him, I was on with Ned Coletti last night. I says, you got to let these kids play. And he agreed. You don't know if they can play if they don't play. And Carcianone 2 for 5 with 3 ribs. McRae 1 for 5. Bailey, big night, 3 for 4, raises his average quite a bit tonight. And that was much needed. What's your thoughts on Encarnacion? Just a stopgap guy.
I like him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, probably a stopgap. I do like him. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if he's like a potential long term. He is only 26. There's always a possibility that he just ends up being one of the Giants' versions of. I don't want to say Max Muncy because that's like a super ridiculous high end, but Farhan has found these guys like Yaz that end up being valuable players. Now he probably has some limited upside given the fact that, all the swing and miss he has and things like that, but, and he doesn't really provide much athletically. It's all, going to be power with his bat. I wouldn't mind like him being around again next season as a reserve. And, I want to say, I feel like I heard he can play first, but I haven't seen him play first at all. Kind of wonder if he could take kind of Flores's role if he does. I think they mentioned it and then they traded for Canna very shortly after. So Canna gets all those reps. So I'm just curious. So,
okay. Yeah. Hey, Chardal, I see that you got a opening in your schedule. You know what? I'll have my agent call your agent and we'll see if we can get that worked out contractually. If we can come to terms, we'll get you on here. But we got to work it through your agent. Okay. I'll have my agent give your agent a call in the morning. Okay. Thanks, Chardal. All right. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a solid player. I would love to see him around next season and see if he can build off this. I think he's kind of earned the right to, be a guy that they consider for next season, at least.
Yeah. So. I mean, we'll see. I mean,
but I mean, what do we do outside? Like, if they actually go make some big moves, I mean, which
you think they're going to make any big moves?
It's Farhan. I don't have faith in the guy to do it. I think there's an opportunity if you look at who's out there. You have Willy Adames out there. I'd say his 102 RBIs look very appealing.
That would be my number one guy I'd go after.
Yeah. You have Anthony Santander out there. You have,
you can actually make your team. Yeah. You can make your team, Cody, without, forget the Soto talk. I mean, you can actually go out and sign Adames, Santander, and Teoscar, and you could have 2 bookend corner outfielders, and you'd have Lee. You still got, I think McRae is showing that he's, at least he's showing something that makes him, a trade piece possibly. They're going to have to trade somebody this offseason, whether it's Matos, Ramos, Luciano, McRae. They've got to make a move to get better. And they Willy Adames. I mean, if you went out and got Willy Adames and say Santander or Teoscar, just 2 of those guys, but Willy was one of them.
I think that's the only realistic. I don't think you're going to get all 3, but
no. But if you can get 2 with one of them being Adames, then you can look to make Fitzgerald second base, or you can make him that super utility guy and go sign an everyday second base guy, and that Fitzgerald still plays 5-6 days a week, but he does need a break. He's not a 7-day-a-week player, I don't think, because he has holes.
There's not very many left anymore.
There's
honestly,
not.
that
There
do
really
play
isn't.
150 plus.
Yeah, there really is not. So you definitely want to see some of that.
In a perfect world, I feel like you can get, and financially it would work. Now, would these guys want to play here? Would they, any of those questions that always arise with playing in Oracle Park? I don't know. But, perfect world, if you could get into Damas Santander and then, go sign like a Travis Darno to be the right-handed half of the catcher.
Right.
I don't want to say platoon because, realistically, Bailey's going to play 70% of the time, or 65, 70%. But to actually be a competent right-handed half of that.
Yeah, I like Darno. Yeah.
That team could actually be good next season. You're going to need a pitcher, Snell or someone else, but you need a pitcher.
Well, there's pitchers out there they can go after. There's Max Fried, there's Waka, there's Seth Lugo. There's guys that are going to be available. If you end up keeping Webb as the anchor, and then there's options out there. But let's just take a quick peek at the wild card in the American League. It is getting tight there. Detroit is actually hanging in there. They're only 3 back of the Twins. 3 teams in that Central Division was always considered the weakest division, kind of in baseball. Looks like it has 3 teams that are competing for a wild card, and you got the Red Sox and Mariners hanging in there. Things are going to get kind of interesting maybe down here. Look at the National League. Now we've got the Cubs were down 7-2 to the Dodgers, and it is now. Let me look at the score currently of this game. Come on here. What do we got going here? Yeah. Oh, I'm on the wrong deal here. We got Giants 13-2, 8-7 Dodgers, top of the 8th. They tied it at 7. So the Cubs have come back and won those first couple of games and made it pretty interesting. So we'll see how this goes. But the Giants, I'm not even counting the Giants. I just want to count their tragic number here and see. Mets win. They're down they're in the 9th inning and they're being no hit. They're losing 1-0, and Lindor hits a tying home run to break up the no hitter, and then they crush the Blue Jays in the 10th. They get 4 or 5 runs. It's crazy. What was the final on that? 6-2 today or something? I think it was, but we'll look at that. Cardinals win. Cubs still playing. Braves lose. So the Mets the Giants, the most they can win is 88 games. I think the tragic number stays at 9, because if the Mets win 8 and if the Mets go 88-74 and the Giants, we're obviously just doing for math purposes, but 1 out, they own the tiebreaker with the Mets. So, and had the Braves won, it would have dropped 1 because the Braves have the tiebreaker. So we'll leave the tragic number, guys, at 9. Still 9. The tragic number for the San Francisco Giants. And we'll mark it off. We'll circle it wherever the number takes us. And guys, if you want to get in on a contest, send that. That is a coffin right there, guys. Hold on here. What happened? Okay. That's a coffin. That is where we bury when the Giants are mathematically eliminated. Come up with your best picture, not pitcher, not starting pitcher reliever, picture. And we're going to put a picture inside that coffin, and the winner will get a prize. So just mail your picture. could be a drawing. It could be anything. Come up with something creative. We'll choose a winner, and we'll put that guy in there next week while they visit Baltimore, because that's when it's going to happen, okay? Sometime while they're playing Baltimore, I believe. Maybe toward the end of the Baltimore series. It could happen in KC. It's going to happen on the road trip for sure, okay?
Yeah.
So the Giants know it's an inevitable death. It's they're on life support right now, the Giants. So, but we won't. Giovanni is Giovanni in the house? No.
Yeah, he's in there.
Oh,
he's saying that they're not.
Yeah. Oh, Giovanni. Giovanni, let me ask you, Giovanni, do you want Farhan back? Yes or no? Give us a simple yes or no from Giovanni.
Oh, yeah, he said you're not loyal if you don't want Farhan back.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he's essentially.
Okay. Giovanni, I'm losing all respect for you. I mean, too lack of brain cells flowing there. Come on. You really want Giovanni's our resident you know what Giovanni fits? He is what we call our resident let's see, do we have him in here? Yes, Giovanni, representing the San Francisco Giants. There we go. Giovanni, our resident. We got to have somebody in here.
There's always one.
Resident clown, and it's Giovanni. He gets the clown award. Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and say Farhan is incapable of figuring something out. And
I am.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He's going to have to change the way he operates. I've said that many times. Like he can't operate out of a state of fear and be just so risk averse going forward. And he's going to have to completely change the way, but I don't know if he can.
I don't think
that's
the
problem.
I don't really think he can, because he's too set. I've always said, a tiger doesn't change its stripes. Exactly. I don't think the guy's capable. He doesn't have the fire, the fight in him. Are you able to pull up? I, for some reason, cannot pull up my my Twitter account. Can you pull up Twitter and pull up, and you have Andrew Baggerly, right?
Yeah.
I want to pull up an article. In fact, I can just repost it too, and you can pull it up on mine. But if you can just go to his, if you can't find it, I'll send it out. I want to. I was looking at that chat. I couldn't read it. I want to read this article. It's about Melvin, and it's a pretty long article, but it's very interesting. Melvin talking about analytics and Farhan and how some of his decisions this year, he takes responsibility, but he hasn't gone with his gut. He's gone with the analytics that I think there's an overwhelming pressure.
I see it.
Marcus Tanner, Dan, I said clown right before you did. LOL. Yeah.
Yeah, Louis, I see it. Hold on, I gotta log in.
I log in and I can't. My phone, I'm fine. I log in with everything. It won't let me log in on another. It says I don't know my username. Well, I only have one username. I don't get it. Yeah, Giovanni. Well, we can have you come on in here on the show if you want to. If you're bold enough. Now, that's a fair question, Giovanni finally asked.
I'm not going to want the smoke.
He says, I'm curious, for those who want Farhan gone, does that mean you also want Bomel gone too?
It's up to the next guy.
What's that?
I said it's up to the next guy.
Yeah. I'm okay with Melvin because I think he is not managing. I think if he managed just by his instincts, I think there's a pressure when you're working for somebody new. I don't know. Everybody's calling for Gio to hop on the show. Yeah, when you get that, just pull it up here, the article, and you can blow it up. I won't be able to. I might be able to control it. I think it might have to be from your end, though. Yeah, it will have to be from your end. I don't know why I can't get on my Twitter.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, Melvin said this is his toughest year in the article. And we'll be getting to some of the minor leagues, guys, here when after we cover some of this stuff. We'll cover minor leagues, what's happening. We got some stuff on Eldridge, Sabalas, the kid from the trade for Soler, and Tibbs, their number 1 draft pick. So we'll have some highlights on all 3 of those guys to look at.
Yeah. You have to add I shared my screen, but you have to add it.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I move it? No, you got to blow it up.
Probably me.
Okay. So let's take a look at this article. I'll go ahead and read it if you want to blow that up a little bit, and then I'll.
Yeah. Here, let's.
This is in the Athletic. I think it also appeared in the New York Times. Okay. When Bob Melvin buttoned up a Giants jersey at his introductory press conference last October, he acknowledged that there were moments when he had to convince himself that all of this was really happening. He grew up a Giants fan in Menlo Park. He'd ride his bicycle past Willie Mays' house, hoping to catch a glimpse of the Say Hey Kid, whom he idolized. His identification with the Giants only grew stronger during a major league career that included 3 seasons in San Francisco and his 2 decades as a major league manager with 4 franchises. He'd gaze into the home dugout at the Giants' waterfront ballpark and wonder what it'd feel like to call it his office. When the Padres allowed Melvin to escape a turbulent environment after last season and the Giants hired him to replace manager Gabe Kapler, it was all a walking dream. This is everything I've dreamed of coming in here, Melvin said on Saturday. And so for it not to go well, and my expectation was that it would go well, makes it probably the hardest year I've ever had. Dreams can take an unexpected and dark turns. The Giants are 71-73, now 72-73. They are distant, or no, they're 72-74, aren't they? This is a couple days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're 72-74 now.
Yeah, 72-74. They are distantly in 4th place in the NL West. They have a payroll that blew past the luxury tax threshold, $237 million for the first time since 2017. They aren't quite drawing dead in the National League wildcard standings, but by this point, they have to get struck by lightning while simultaneously holding the winning Powerball numbers to squeeze in. A better goal over the final 3 weeks would be to finish over 500, learn about youngsters, and set a standard for tighter play after a summer when so many threads came loose. Adding to the heartbreak, the Giants mourned May's death in June, just 2 days before celebrating his legacy in a game at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama. They also lost fellow Hall of Famer and franchise great Orlando Cepeda a few weeks later. It hasn't been the season that Melvin envisioned. And yes, he acknowledged that the failures and the losing record have stolen some of his joy. It's also the second consecutive season in which Melvin has managed a massive disappointment after a ridiculously loaded Padres roster failed to make the playoffs last year. So Melvin said he understands the growing undercurrent of criticism. He also acknowledged that as a first-year manager learning his personnel and adapting back to the analytics-driven front office, there's been times when he didn't trust his gut while making game-level decisions like he should have. Melvin pledged to bring accountability to the clubhouse when he was hired. Let's see. Okay. when he was hired in a wide-ranging interview on Saturday morning. So this is Wednesday night. It was last Saturday. He made it clear that he must be held accountable too. Yet he also expressed, here's some interesting, this is where it gets interesting, guys. He also expressed optimism that the Giants aren't as far away as the standings might suggest, and he expressed confidence that important building blocks are being put into place. Below is our conversation, lightly edited for clarity. Okay. This is your 21st season as a major league manager, and although it's the same job from year to year, every season is unique unto itself. What would you view as some of your more unique challenges you've had to face this season? He says, well, first of all, when you come into a new organization, it feels like the first year is kind of a challenge because you're not only getting to know the players, the incumbents, the ones you brought in, but it's the front office and support staff. It's everybody, because you're never going to come in. You're never going to come into a situation that's complete overhaul. So that takes a lot of time. It's not always comfortable, especially when there's a lot of people from the remaining staff. So you want to, what's going on here? Where was it? What happened? Where am I? So
you're right here. Sorry, it popped up in front.
Okay, so you want to make those people feel comfortable and want everybody to know, look, I'm not coming in here to change everything. I'm coming in here to assimilate to things. And in my position, make some changes for the better. See, this is why it's so much better to clean house, guys. Look, imagine if the Giants would have cleaned house instead of kept Farhan on. Melvin and a new GM could have come in, or whoever the GM hired could have come in and started their own regime. Look, there's a new sheriff in town. It's being done this way. But when you still have the sheriff, kind of, so to speak, looking over the deputies' heads, it's not conducive to a successful operation, generally speaking. Although Mike Schultz seemed to do okay in San Diego, coming in as, but again, the general manager is letting him run things the way he wants to run it. Whereas Farhan, when months ago, when Eric used to be on the show, he used to have a saying, and I love the saying. He said something to the effect that Kapler was the how did he say that? Kapler was the
scapegoat, fall guy.
No, he was the illness or the Band-Aid or something, but Farhan was the disease. So Farhan was the root problem, and I think we can see that. I really do, because Kapler doesn't look as bad after what this team.
Well, I see people on X all the time that are like, well, Kapler was doing more with less. And it's like, well, Kapler was a manager perfectly designed to operate under a guy like Farhan.
Right.
He's a guy that without fail will always go with the analytics. He will never, ever insert his gut feeling into anything.
Aaron got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're right, Cody.
And Melvin needs to be in a situation where he has the autonomy to run the club as the manager, like to make all the decisions. So I don't know if they'll succeed together. I mean, they've succeeded working together in the past, but
Yeah. Anyway, there's the saying. Kapler was the symptom and Farhan was the disease. Thanks, Aaron. So he says, my first year in Seattle was really hard because I was a first-year manager, and we won 93 games. My first year in San Diego was tough because I had come from Oakland, where I'd been for 11 years, and it was a completely different deal there. And we went to the NLCS. So you get inspired by coming to a new place. Now here it was completely different because this is San Francisco. This is the signature team in the Bay Area. This is everything I've dreamed of coming in here. And so for it not to go well, and my expectation was that it would go well, makes it probably the hardest year I've ever had. Last year was hard in San Diego because what we accomplished the year before. But this year was more personal because it's San Francisco. So in that respect, this has been a very difficult year for me. Now it's not over. There's still a lot to accomplish with some of the younger players and the guys that we have leading into next year. But there are nights when it's very uncomfortable for me. Wow. So the question now becomes, such a large part of your job is to evaluate player performance. When you step back and look at the season, how would you evaluate your own performance? I always step back and look every night. It's probably one of my detriments. I do that every night, and I feel like everything that went wrong, I have a big part of that of the responsibility. Should I have started a runner 3-2 before a guy hit into a double play? Was that pitching change right? A lot of criticism for managers is bullpen usage, right? So, you just have to be right. Even if everything lines up, all your analytics, everything in your matchup sheet, if you're wrong, you're still wrong. The bullpen is the hardest part to evaluate when you go back and look at things. In our case, was I too late to make a change in the closer role? What makes it so hard is because at the time, you always feel like you're making the right move. You try to make every decision you make a good decision. You make a good decision. They're not all going to be right, but the ones that stand out are the ones the bullpen gives up the lead. Sure. And those are the ones you have to wear the hardest. Baggerly, you've heard it said that the people in this game who stick around are the ones who never stop learning. What have you learned this year? He says, Melbourne. Everywhere, every year. When I went from Oakland to San Diego, for example, Oakland was very analytic based. San Diego was not. And maybe at least in the second year with the Padres, I didn't push the running game and bunting and some of the traditional stuff that maybe I'd done in Arizona. Maybe I didn't do enough in Oakland either, but it worked for our model there. And coming to San Francisco, I learned from San Diego that you have to be able to do some stuff like that. And maybe here again, the Giants were more analytic based. So maybe I got caught in the middle a little bit with my feelings were with what my feelings were and how to do things, as opposed to do the right thing might be to do in a particular organization what the model was given. Okay. Am I reading that right? Okay. Let's see.
Let me go back. Caught a little bit of
do in particular.
Yeah, I think he just means like how he operates based on the, what he said, the model of whatever the organization.
So right.
Yeah, however they're set up.
Okay.
The San Francisco should be a place where you do a lot more of the little things because they don't have the talent of other places.
Right. Okay. So the next question is, it sounds like you're describing situations when you'd make a game level decision and not feel totally all in on it. Correct, Melvin says. And I'm not blaming it on anything or anyone else. It's on me. If there's a move that all the numbers say is the right thing to do, but your gut is telling you maybe not today, and you still make that analytics driven move, then that's when you really kick yourself later. Aha. Instead of using the eye test, he's going by the chart that he's been given.
What's the whole the thing I've always hated with analytics, and I shouldn't even say analytics because it's not really. I don't dislike it with analytics. What I hate with guys like Kapler that make every decision based off the numbers and never deviate from that is like they don't ride the hot hand like Bochy used to. They don't, guy hits a home run 2 straight days. They're not playing that, if they're facing the wrong-handed pitcher, they're like, well, you're going to still sit on the bench.
Right.
Matos hits a home run a few days ago, and then he sits on the bench for 2 straight games. And, he got in for a late at bat today. And,
it's crazy.
Good for him. He got a hit off the position player, but still, it's like you get stuff like that all the time where they'll bench these guys the day after they do something well. And it's like, oh, gee, I wonder why these young kids aren't building momentum. It's like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out.
Right. So the next question is, what are the areas of this club you're most proud of? Well, I think the development of some of the younger guys here, they're going to be so important to this organization going forward because everywhere I've been, really good teams have a flavor of youth and are really driven by people from within the organization. I always liken it to being a freshman, then JV, now you're varsity, right? So here in Oakland, wherever I was, here in Oakland, wherever I was, when guys come up in the big leagues from the system, there's a little bit more pride in the name on the front of the jersey. Free agents, I don't want to say it's a bit more mercenary, but when guys are coming up from within the organization, that's really important and it resonates in the clubhouse. And then you mix and match with the right people around that. But it always starts with the base. And I think we're developing a base here on the pitching end and on the position player as well. Well, I question that because they haven't played Luciano and Matos, even though they were out of it. They're still not playing them. I mean, look, Wisely starts tonight. I get it. You're trying to match up, but you're out of it. Who cares about the matchups? Let's see what you're talking about homegrown here. You're homegrown. Wisely's not homegrown. Okay. He's a pickup from I think he was with Tampa or something.
Yeah.
So these guys were drafted. They've been in the organization for 7-8 years, Matos and Luciano, since like 16. Let these guys play. You know what? They may not make it. They may, just fail. But you know what? Let them fail by playing, not sitting on the bench. Yeah. It's unbelievable what these guys do.
Yeah. And I mean, they do have, I get kind of what he's saying, because if you like with the position player group, if you're looking at like Bailey, Fitzgerald, and Ramos, for example,
yeah,
like you do feel like you have something of a base. I mean, that's a 30-year lineup.
That's a 30-year lineup. Yeah. I would love to see it half, but
yeah. And then with the pitchers, I mean, you got, obviously Webb's homegrown, and then you have Harrison and Birdsong sitting there. Right. And now you have guys like Roop, who's kind of quietly had a really good season.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of guys in the pen with Eric Miller, Rodriguez, Walker, even Doval, whatever he ends up being next year. Hopefully he can turn it around. But I get what he's saying. It just, you're still missing, like, to me, you don't have a core until you have that, they like to call them the aircraft carrier players, the guys that are going to carry your franchise. They don't have that guy. Yeah. And until you have that guy, it's like, yeah, I mean, you have some nice, you've developed some nice pieces, but that's about it.
Yeah. There's Kyle's comment. Makes a lot of sense. I remember that. Flores hit a home run 3 days in a row last year and was benched for 2 days in a row because they were facing a righty. They went to Washington. He hit 4 homers in Cincinnati. They go to Washington. He sits for 2 days. And then they finally like, oh, wait a minute. He might be our best hitter this year. Maybe we should start playing him. Yeah. So what is this one here? Marcus says analytics whole purpose is to hide the fact that those who use analytics have been terrible at drafting players, right?
Yeah. Pull up George's really quick.
George says the thing is that Luciano and Matos have not earned Bomel's trust, but most of all, Bomel and Farhan probably feel like they need to win to keep their jobs and will bet on Yaz, Wisely, and Conforto.
If they are playing, if they feel they need to win to keep their jobs in the season, they are 8 games back in the wild card. We've got big problems because like ownership should have already pulled the plug if they think they need to win, unless they're just waiting for them to be officially eliminated, because it makes no sense other than unless they are just simply trying to stay on Boris's good side. And that's the only reason Conforto is still getting to play, 70% of the time. It makes no sense to play him anymore this season and let Matos rot on the bench.
Right. No,
just as an example.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So the next question, what are the areas of this club you're most proud of? Okay, we just did that one. Yeah. Okay, so let me move George's. Let's see. Where's the let's move to the bottom. What are the areas most disappointing? The next question. The record. and the record is the manager's record. Our record is my record, the way I look at it, and it's not good enough. The long-term look comes more in the offseason when you have time to step back. When you're in it day to day, it's more about what didn't I do today? What didn't I do yesterday? What am I going to do today? Those other evaluations come when the season's over. Is there something that stands out as a decision or a strategy or a course that the team took this season that you wish you could take back? Maybe pinch hitting a little too much instead of staying a little bit more faithful in some of the guys. Like you look at Conforto's numbers against lefties. Now there are certain matchups that are just hard on lefties, period. But there are times that I pinch hit for him and I went back and thought, man, he's got a 900 OPS against lefties. Why did I do that? I need to show more faith in guys like that. And I sometimes have a tough time finding a balance about, did I leave a starter out there too long or did I go to the bullpen too early? And I think there's been a little bit of this, of that this year. Let me interpret for you guys what he's saying there. He's not managing on his gut instinct because there's a lot of pressure for him to follow the analytics. It's not like here's your cheat sheet for the, because analytics every day, each game, the analytics department does a lot of work and provides the manager with information. The manager then is, set his lineup, but there must be an unsaid, or maybe it has been said and he's just not revealing all of it. There is pressure to follow Farhan's methods. Okay. They're not hiring. Look, guys, they fired a bunch of scouts years ago for a more analytics driven department. There's so much money in the analytics department that they're not going to let the money they're paying those guys go to waste. This is the Giants' philosophy. So that's what's going on there. He's basically telling you, without saying it, because he can't, is I'm kind of frustrated that I can't manage the way I'd like to manage. If you read between the lines, okay? So let's go to the next question. How much is that function of learning your personnel as a first-year manager here? Well, there's some of that, he says, but I've always say that the first couple of months you kind of figure out what you have, and then you have a better idea what to do a little bit later. Next question says, you've accomplished a lot in your career. You've won the Manager of the Year award 3 times, but this year and last year in San Diego, you've managed high-profile teams with payrolls exceeding the luxury tax threshold that significantly underachieved. As you know, this is always a "what have you done for me lately" business. How do you respond to the overall personal criticism from those who would draw a link between you and those 2 disappointing seasons? I like Bo Mel. He's being forthright here, He says probably fair, but I also had a big payroll the first year I was there in San Diego, and we went to the NLCS. So the second year in San Diego was a big disappointment, and a lot transpired because of that. So you're right. We did have a big payroll this year in San Francisco, and it's not good enough. One of the challenges you faced every year in Oakland was to win and develop at the same time while competing with younger players in key roles. How would you describe your approach to winning while developing younger players? Have you had to do more of that this year than you anticipated? At the beginning, sure, he says, but as a coach, you get very inspired by it. Now, the reasons for it aren't good this year because we went in with a little bit more of a veteran team and didn't expect an Elliot Ramos to be here or a Tyler Fitzgerald to be here or leaning on a Hayden Birdsong in the rotation. But it's very inspiring because developing guys, that's why coaches get into this, seeing the fruits of the labor. Okay. Let's see. These type of moves really encourage and inspire you to look to next year and say, you know what? We're not many pieces off and we're not that far away. We can be really good as quickly as next year, in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things I'll comment on with the developing young players is one of the reasons why I would be just fine if they kept, Bob Melvin around, especially if they decided like next season, because are there routes they could go that they could bring in a couple impactful players and probably be a pretty competitive team next season, especially if they get the growth they're expecting out of some of these young players, absolutely. But if they don't and they want to lean on the young players, Bob Melvin has a pretty extensive history of developing young players. If he's actually allowed to do that, and that's the directive, if it's not like this season where they're basically saying to play the vets because they're trying to win every last game and they're not willing to sacrifice a couple wins at the end of the season to get the needed development.
Right.
So
right.
He needs to be allowed to manage in order to develop these guys and not just whatever the hell they're doing this season because it's
Correct.
straddling the fence.
Correct. So, how much can the Matt Chapman extension help cement the culture that you want to create here? Bo Mel says in concert with the younger players from the system, you need core veteran guys who are stabilizing forces and leaders. And Logan Webb and Matt Chapman are the two huge pieces for us going forward. With them and with the younger guys, we're not far away. As horrible as this feels right now, and I feel it every night, and especially now, since I don't want to say it is a spiral, but we're probably playing our worst baseball right now. You have to step back and see the future. These types of moves really encourage and inspire you to look at next year and say, you know what? We're not many pieces off and we're not that far away. We can really be good as quickly as next year, in my opinion. Okay. Did I already read that or no? Or is that the same as what I just?
Yeah, I think you read this part, and then I think when I scrolled down, you skipped down to this
Oh,
part.
okay. Sounded familiar. Okay. I'll say this. The offseason depends on what they do. If they bring the club back that exists now and maybe add, a free agent pitcher, the mid, a 3 or 4 or 5 guy, they had two starting pitchers that are 4s and 5s, like they did last year with Manaea and when they added Manaea and Wood or Stripling. I mean, Manaea, if they go that route, unless they brought actually Manaea back, who's having a phenomenal year. But he's having a phenomenal year because he knows what his role is. They just totally screwed with his head while he was here. And I blame Farhan for that too. But I'll say this. If they don't do anything substantial and they think they're there because they got guys that are young guys that are starting to produce in this division, they're 4th place. Lock it. I mean, you can just lock it because San Diego is going to get better, and so is Arizona, and the Dodgers are the Dodgers. So you have to get, increment. You can't just. You got to really get better. And again, those moves, in my opinion, would be Willy Adames 1, and either Santander or Teoscar Hernandez. One of those guys becoming another corner piece. You've got, and then with Jung-Hoo Lee coming back, that will help. You've got to find another contact hitter besides Lee too in the lineup. You can't have your entire lineup have a 20+% K rate. It's not acceptable. You've got the highest K rate in the division and probably in most of Major League Baseball. Other teams that are driving in runs and scoring with runners in scoring position is because their K rates in the low teens. You strike out 10 to 12% more than the average team. Yeah, you're going to struggle to score runs. So I'm not as confident as Bo Mel right now because I'd feel a lot better if I knew Farhan was not here, because I don't know if Farhan can go out and get the real star players, And I know, forget Soto.
Okay. I think you need a starter, And I'm not as picky as like, does it need to be front end or anything? You need someone to eat innings.
Right.
Like the main issue right now, because I actually believe their bullpen could be really good next season if they actually go into the season with 5 or 6 starters that are going to consistently get you 5-6 innings, plus Webb's out there who's going to get you 7-8 sometimes. But if you can at least fill your rotation and actually have legitimate starters that are going to eat up innings, I think the bullpen could be really good next season. So yeah, you might not have a top end rotation.
Can we get rid of the Hicks experiment as a starter, please? Let's not run that back, because he's not cut out to. What's that?
I don't want him starting.
No, he's not cut out to pitch that many innings. Look, you tried to build him up this year, and look what happened. He's done for the season because you wore him out. He went from 104 mile an hour fastball to 94.
Yeah.
He lost 10 miles an hour off of his fastball. Even when he went to the pen, he was throwing like 94. Yeah. I mean, occasionally he would hit 97, but he was hitting, when he pitched one inning at a time, the guy consistently threw 103. It's like, what are you doing, Farhan? Yeah. What are you doing? Stop trying to, outsmart everybody. The only person you're outsmarting is yourself.
Yeah.
It's like,
100%.
Jeez. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
I think they need a starter, maybe 2. If you want to go the middle tier, you can maybe try and get 2, but they need a starter and they need probably 2 impactful bats if they want to have any chance at competing with Arizona and San Diego next season.
Absolutely.
Because the Dodgers are going to do what the Dodgers do, but
right,
at least next season. And until
watch
the Giants,
Dodgers, you watch the Dodgers, they're going to sign Adames.
It wouldn't shock me, honestly.
They're going to, because it's a weakness.
Might have 140 RBIs on that team.
Yeah, it's a weakness. They will. I don't know what Muncy's contract is, but I could see them saying, you know what, we can replace Adames with Muncy, and we could fill that money with Adames, and we'll get, and we'll find. We got Lux that can play second. We'll just, we'll make a trade for a third baseman that's solid. Heck, JD Davis would probably fit in there at third base with that club. With that lineup, it's so long of a lineup. Question is, does Teoscar, do they sign him back? That will be the, I don't know if they'll do
maybe
Teoscar and Adames if they were to get. They might get one of them. I don't know if they have the money, but I don't know if they'd spend it.
They're not always willing. They have the money, but they're not always willing.
Right.
This season they were, because, especially with how last season ended and they had cleared the books and gotten under the under the luxury tax or the competitive balance tax, whatever.
Yeah.
They were primed. They knew what they were doing. They knew Ohtani was a free agent, Yamamoto and all that. They knew what they were going to do. And they set themselves up to do it.
Ohtani, he's going to hit next week sometime. Unfortunately, it's going to be on the road. I hope it's not in Miami. That would suck. He's going to hit 50-50. He's at 48 stolen bases, crazy. 47 home runs. After this weekend, they're home. Wait a minute. I think they go to Atlanta Friday. Somebody check me on that. I think they go to Atlanta for 4, Friday through Monday, and then they go to Miami for 3. So and then they come back home, I think, for Colorado or something like that. I just don't want to see him do it in Miami. No one's there. Nobody's there. It's like, do it in Atlanta where there's a full house, and knowing how Shohei rises to the moment, I could see it happening in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He's got 48 stolen bases. He'll probably have 50 stolen bases by the end of the weekend, maybe. He's probably going to have another home run or so, maybe 2. And if he can, but that's pretty exciting for baseball, 50-50. Man.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
What do we got? Giants lead the majors in innings thrown by rookie pitchers. How would you evaluate what you've seen from Harrison and Birdsong and others? How does the rotation set up for next year? He says the experience that these guys are getting right now, even getting punched in the face a little, has been good. You have to embrace that and you have to push through it. Hey, look, this game isn't very easy, but instead of backing off when you're going through fire, you don't stop. You keep going through it. Breathe into it as opposed to feeling paralyzed by it. Harry is going to be really good pitcher. This year, he was all over the place for him, really good and bad and in between. He's going to be better for it, knowing that he pushed through some things when he could have backed off and said, hey, I need a break. And he never did until just recently here when we needed to place him on the injured list with shoulder inflammation. So I'm proud of the way he went about it. The kid's a real competitor, never used anything as an excuse, never used any innings as an excuse. If he got hit around, he admitted it. I got hit around. That's what you want to see out of younger players. Probably, he did mention Birdsong there. Okay. Have the young pitchers set decent enough benchmarks in innings to the point where they won't be a concern next season? Well, I do think so, and that's why we want to push to these levels now and not back off. You want to set it up this year so they won't be too many restrictions next year. When you look at the innings that we had to cover out of the bullpen this year, this wasn't what we forecasted going in. Well, you should have known when you put Jordan Hicks in your starting rotation that, oh gosh, one could argue
start a season with 2.5 starters.
Yeah.
Gee, who would have seen this coming?
Yeah. One could argue late May and June was the most challenging stretch of the season because you were operating with Logan Webb, a flagging, Jordan Hicks, and bullpen games more or less to fill the rest of the rotation. One also could argue that you did your best managerial work over that stretch because the team came out of it still in contention within the fair side of 500. But since I just mentioned Hicks, how do you evaluate his transition from reliever to rotation, and how do you envision him factoring into next season? One of the comments I'll make here is with these innings and stuff. You traded Alex Cobb at the trade deadline when you're kind of close in contention, and you just mailed it in with your pitching staff. That was dumb. I mean, you'd already paid Cobb like $10 million. You already gave him like 6 or 7 of it for no production at all. Now you just give up on him for which we'll see Sabalas here soon. So maybe something comes out of that, but who knows? Let's see. So his answer to that this was a real learning experience for him, for Hicks. You got to go at it with a certain mindset as a reliever who had to go in to pace yourself mode. Early in the season, it worked really well for him, but he had some extra velocity when he needed it. When we got a little further along, it wasn't there when he needed it, so it was time to take a break. But based on where he got to this year, we can go to another level with him. Oh, gosh. They're going to do it again.
I think the plan is for him to have the opportunity, but I would not be surprised if they are set up, like if they re-sign Snell or extend him or whatever and go into next season with 5 starters set up, I would not be shocked if Hicks is the guy that does get booted if they feel better about the other guys. So I don't think Bob Melvin is going to mess around with it next season. Like if he's still here, he's going to be like, I'm pitching the best 5, and Hicks ain't one of them.
Aaron says, at what point do you stop saying next year? It's like those signs at the bar say free beer tomorrow. Yeah. Louis says 9 more years of being in 4th place. They'll break through to 3rd one of these years. Let's see. What does this team need that it doesn't currently have? I wish you would have said everything.
How long you got?
That would have been great.
Talk about what we have. It's a shorter answer.
We're starting to see it. a little bit more athleticism, especially at home. We have to play really good defense and not beat ourselves. And we have to create different ways to score, whether it's bunting a guy over, whether it's a hit and run, whether it's stealing some bases, whether it's creating some havoc, especially in our place. In low-scoring games, just don't beat yourself and find a way to scratch a run late. Have a good bullpen that can shut it down. Going forward, I think that's what we need. That's solid. I mean, those are solid answers, I'd say. I mean, because look, the game you did in Seattle a few weeks ago where you stole four bases and bunted a couple times was the best played game you had all year, and you won. And it's like, why are we not doing this on a daily basis? Like,
well, and that's where if they're not going to go out and go get impactful, position, hitters, I'll just put it that way, like middle of the order guys, like a Willie Adames is a legit 5 hitter.
right.
You can hit him 5th, 2nd, whatever you want to do. Like he'd be legit. Yeah, he strikes out a little more than you like, but that guy has been so money with runners in scoring position throughout his career. I mean, Jeff Kent he'd be proud of Willie Adames throughout his career.
Yeah.
And so if you're not going to go get guys like that, then lean in on the speed and defense. McRae, does he strike out too much? Sure. But go get guys that, you could hit McRae 9th, let him bunt for 20 hits a season.
Right.
He'll probably have like a 310 on base, but look at what Bryce Terang's doing for Milwaukee this season.
Right.
He's got like a 680 OPS, but he has 41 stolen bases out of the 9 hole. Like McRae's a guy that is capable of stealing 30 plus bags. I mean, he sold 50 2 years ago or last season in the minors, actually.
Yeah.
So, lean in on the athleticism if you're and then pitching. I mean, that's going to be your route. That's going to be the only way you're going to compete if you're not going to go get impactful middle of the line at bats. You better have speed and pitching.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What areas of on the field play need to be tightened up? You really feel defense. We started out playing pretty good defense, but right now it's not what we expect. And as coaches, we feel there's a personality to defense. There's a tenacity and understanding that you create on the other side. Like these guys aren't going to beat themselves. Yeah. And we've done some things defensively here that have not felt good. As a manager, I feel I'm accountable for that. Okay. And he says, let's talk about stolen base differential. Your players on the position side are who they are. And early efforts to put runners in motion resulted in running into a lot of outs. But you have the fewest stolen bases in the major league, 61, and most allowed, 139. What happened there? It was my fault. We didn't push it enough early on on slide steps and making guys move more aware of the running game. And then it got to the point where we were just absolutely had to do it. And there were times when we gave up some homers because of it, maybe not making a good pitch or breaking ball or something like that. But it's something we had to get better at. And we have here recently, but it started out awful. And as a former catcher, that hits me in the heart for sure. It's going to be a focus going forward. What disappointing areas are you going to spend the most time diagnosing after the season? The inability to hit with runners in scoring position, not scoring enough early runs against starters. Melvin says all those things, right? We try to place an emphasis on situational hitting and batting practice, but it's tough to do with a 60-mile-an-hour arm throwing batting practice. Maybe make it a little bit more difficult. Okay, let's blow through the rest of this here. Let's see if there's anything.
Funny enough, I just checked their stolen base total from last season. They've actually improved from last season.
Oh my goodness.
They had 57 all last season. They're at 61. Plus, I think they got one. They might actually be higher than that now, because I think Ramos still got credited for a stolen bag on the one that went by.
Yeah. Here's a good question from Baggerly. One reason the Giants were such a tough matchup in their World Series years, especially in the postseason, was that they had so many dangerous hitters with adjustable bat swings. It's called swing path. Sandoval, Pence, and even Posey. There was no safe way to pitch them, and they didn't beat themselves with defense. Right. You already touched on the closer role. Okay. Oh, and they did. And Melvin just said they didn't beat themselves. Well, see, the answer to this is you don't have the right type of hitters in this lineup. They all are swing and miss guys. All of them. Every one of them except Jung-Hoo Lee. And you got to have 3 guys in the lineup, maybe 5. Really, you need 5 guys in the lineup to make less than 20% K rate, okay? You cannot have 9 guys come to the plate and they all have, 22, 23%, and then your power guys are up 26, 28%. And in some cases, 31%. I mean, that is why this team is so doggone boring, because they strike out. It's either, like tonight, they hit the long ball quite. I mean, they did get 17 hits, but how many times does this happen? Like you said at the beginning of the show, Cody, these 17 hits, they might not get 17 hits in the next 3 or 4 games combined. Seriously, if they average 4 hits a game, they're going to get 16 hits over the next 4. I think it'll be 3 games. I literally think it'll be like 5, 6, and 6 over the next 3 games. Let's see. Second consecutive tailspin for Patrick Bailey in the second half. What are you seeing? He says it gets into your head sometimes, right? There are very few two-way catchers. He has the ability to do both. Workload is a huge, but I don't think it was workload issue this year. I just think once you get down that road with the hitting slump, it gets in your head and it gets in there a little bit deep. He's a terrific kid, terrific catcher. He cares about what he's doing, and he's going to push through this at some point. He had a good night tonight. 3 hits, right?
Yeah. I just want to go back and emphasize the second half OPS. Like
343. Wow.
I get it, and I get into this with people all the time, where people are like, but the defense. Guys, there needs to be a minimum standard of offensive output, because you know what you call a great defensive catcher that absolutely cannot hit? A nice backup. This guy is starting, and that I'm sorry, that's just not good enough. And this is the second straight season. And I'm not calling to bench the guy. They don't have a better option. Like, that's the reality. It's just at some point, like, this is a problem and it needs to get addressed, or they are going to have to go find a catcher, because unless we're not the Dodgers, we don't have 3 MVPs in the lineup, where the Dodgers can just bury him down at the bottom of the lineup and not give 2 craps about it.
You had Bailey hitting 4th part of this first half. A lot.
He should never hit above 8th.
No, exactly. And Chapman should never hit above 6. He should be the 6th or 7th or 8th. I mean, if you can get Chapman
6 is fine.
Yeah, if you can get Chapman down to 6 or 7, and you have guys in front of him that are, driving in runs because they're making contact with runners on base, then Chapman occasionally drives these guys in with a bop, but you don't have to consistently have him in that spot. I mean, he's had a hot month and a half. He's been tearing it up. Yeah. He's really stepped it up, but
I mean, with Chapman, like, to me, my biggest issue is not even him. It's the way they utilize him. Right. The expectations that are put on him. I mean, they expect this guy to be a 4-hitter or a 3-hitter at times. Yeah. And that's simply not that. But I mean, on the flip side, he has 24 home runs, 35 doubles, a triple. So, what's that end up being? It's 60 extra base hits and 15 stolen bases to go with it. It's like, he is so far from the biggest problem on this team.
Right.
Like it's just how they're utilizing him. That's an issue. And I would love to see better production with runners in scoring position, because realistically he could probably have 90 plus RBIs right now.
I don't have a problem so much with Chapman per se. I have a problem with the construction of the roster, because
100%.
If Chapman is your guy, you're going nowhere, because he's not the type of guy that can carry you because he doesn't hit consistently. But
he could be one of your best all-around players, but
he can be. Yeah, if you have
your lineup,
right? If you had 2 or 3 other really good players, like two star type players, and then other guys that fit in around, then he becomes valuable.
A couple big
much more
hitters
valuable.
and a couple guys that have speed and defense, and yeah.
The last one we won't touch on all this. Taking this job was a dream come true for you. Has any part of the way of the year, has any part of the way the year has gone stolen away any of your joy? He says, "Oh, a ton. Now you have to put things in perspective. I've never lived in this city before. Where I live in San Francisco is wonderful. It's a fantastic experience. And there are days that I go home and it doesn't feel like I need to scroll up a little bit. Like it should."
You mean to move it?
Yeah, up. Yeah. So
I'm sorry.
This is the last question. Doesn't feel like it should. When we lost that Sunday game against Miami on September 1st, I went back home and I saw all the people leaving the ballpark, all the black and orange walking down the Embarcadero, and it killed me. I went home and sat there and just looked out and watched this and thought, we're so responsible for this, and I feel that every day here. Well, it's good to know that he's feeling it. I mean, Kapler, one of the problem with Kapler is he just never took any real responsibility. He always, was always deflecting, and it was annoying.
Don't blame me. Blame Farhan's spreadsheets.
Yeah. So, well, let's get to the minors here and wrap this up. Let's do the minor league report. We'll finish this up by 11 and go for it. Tell us what's going on down there, what you got for all the people in the chat that want to know what's happening down on the farm.
Yeah. So Eugene wrapped up their season this last week. San Jose wrapped up their regular season. They're in a 3-game playoff with Modesto. They just lost the first game of that, but they have potentially 2 more. We'll see. And then Richmond's in their final week. They will be, they've already been eliminated for a while. They weren't very good this season. And then Sacramento, I believe, is in their final week of regular season, but I think they're likely going to be in a playoff. So, something to watch there. But as far as performance, because that's really what matters is player performance. Sacramento, couple good, Wade Meckler continued to have a really good season in Sacramento since he's been back. He hit a couple home runs, 10 for 26. The home runs I don't really care about. Frankly, I don't think his power can play in this park. Doesn't really. He hits a lot that just barely squeak over the fences in AAA, and it's like that's going to be an out in Oracle Park a lot of times. But I think his hit tool can play. Like he has good bat to ball skills, hits a lot of line drives, like that could play. But they got to figure out where to play him defensively because frankly, he's just not an outfielder. And you do something to the sound?
I muted myself accidentally.
Okay.
Can Meckler play second base?
Yeah, that's what I've been pushing for because he played it in college. And
he looks kind of like a little second baseman. He doesn't look much.
Well, and you look at his hit profile, and it's like he can't play center field acceptably. I mean, they put him there, but and even in the corners, he's very suspect at best. But he just does not have much pop. And it's like, are we going to put a corner outfielder there with no pop? Like that doesn't make sense. And at second base, like I could care less if he only hits 5 home runs. Like if he's hitting 280, 290, then
does he have any stolen base type speed at all? Does he have quickness to steal bases?
I know they were working on it a ton last season. This season, he's been limited as far as how much he's played. But I do believe I'm pulling it up like super fast here. I do believe he has stolen a few. Of course, he didn't play today. So, or yesterday. That was yesterday.
I mean, I watched him in spring training. He was one of the guys that was hitting the ball the hardest. And he's a gap type hitter. He plays to the park actually pretty well.
It would, yeah. It's just the home runs that I'm like, that's not going to happen.
But you don't need all the home runs if he can hit you. He's the type of guy that seems like he can slap the ball around, get on base enough to hit close to 300. He's not going to have a high OPS or any of that stuff, but look, if he
7 stolen bases.
If he can get on base, move the line, and he doesn't. I know he struck out a ton when he was up here last year because he looked lost, but I think typically he's not a high K rate, is he?
No, not usually. It's usually in the mid-teens.
Right.
And what Haruki said, like I don't disagree with that, but to me, like you can't have no power, no defense, no arm, you can't be just a hit and speed, and the speed's not elite. Like you can't be that and be a starting corner outfielder. Like you can be a nice bench piece, a nice reserve if you have 0 pop. Yeah. But if that's going to be your hit tool, get him to second base. Like if that's going to be what you are. So and right now he's just not an acceptable outfielder defensively, and that's why he's in AAA. Because a lot of people will go like, why is Matos getting the opportunities? And some of it is Matos is right-handed, and they already have Conforto and Yaz who are lefties. But part of it is also the fact that Meckler is god awful in the outfield defensively.
Yeah.
And people get on Matos, and it's like, dude, Matos is a whole tier above what Meckler provides. Like, it's ugly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But hit tool is nice. He's playing well. That route. Bishop had a nice week. He's actually finishing the season strong. 9 for 24. VR went 10 for 22. Home run, 4 doubles. He had a nice week. So some good stuff there. Eldridge in his first full week in Richmond went 6 for 23. Home run, a double. He had a 110-mile-an-hour triple yesterday, and then another double today. The average isn't, super high down in Richmond, but he's hitting the ball hard. He doesn't look overmatched at all. He's hit a lot of hard balls into outs. So,
who's DFA-able on the 40-man right now? And the reason I ask that is, do you think they might try to bring up Bishop for even 12, 14 games just to see? You don't think they will? The only reason I ask that,
I just don't know where they play him.
Honestly. Doesn't he have to be Rule 5 eligible this year if they don't protect him put him on the 40 in the offseason?
Yeah, he would be Rule 5 eligible if they don't. I wouldn't be shocked if they did in the offseason, but I just don't see it happening.
I would love to just see him. You know what? Make a hush-hush deal. Invite Canna back to camp next year if you want to, as a non-roster invitee. But, I mean, are you going to really build around Mark Canna going forward?
Canna only makes sense if you're going to dump Flores and you're just going to roll with the Wade Canna platoon.
Yeah,
I'm tired of.
They need a real first baseman next year.
I'm tired of having a first baseman that has 6 home runs and 28 RBIs.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness,
I'm over it.
Oh wow.
I mean, they do have a few 40-man guys that are DFA-able.
Austin Warren pitched tonight. You can find guys like that down the street probably.
They've got him, Ethan Small, although he might be on the 60-man still. Or on the 60-day IL.
The reason I say that, I just would like to see what Bishop could do, because if you gave him, see if he looks overmatched. Maybe he's an older guy now. I'd hate to lose that type of talent just to the 40, because a team like, I would think, a team like the A's or would pick him up, or playing in Sacramento.
Like the White Sox.
White Sox.
Awful and have nothing to lose.
Right. Just hey, look, this guy's cost us $50,000.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, $100,000, whatever. Yeah.
But he's finishing strong. Velasquez has had a nice, run in AA. He's been playing pretty well there. I'm actually excited to see him make a push next season. He's about to turn 21 in October. So he'll be in his age 21 season all next season. And, he's hitting like nearly 300 in AA. I mean, he's been doing really well down there. So hopefully he keeps growing. He's really solid defensively at second. Outside of that, over in Eugene, they wrapped up their season. here, if you want to click on the Eldridge one, people can watch that.
Okay.
Kind of we'll skip through a couple of these. So yeah, that was the Eldridge double. He hit a home run to right center as well. And then over in Eugene, James Tibbs III, he had that horrendous start to high A where he hit 400 in San Jose. He got the quick promotion.
There's a double-A homer right there, huh?
Yeah. That was the first one for him. Yeah, they've only had 2 players in double-A hit 20 homers. And I'm like, if this guy actually played a full season in double-A, I think he'd easily clear that by a lot.
So this is Tibbs here.
Yeah. So Tibbs, who was off to just a horrible start, he did finish strong in high A. He went 9 for 26 with 2 home runs and a double last week and a couple walks. So good to see him, finish the season the way he did. So he was obviously off to a really, really, he went like 1 for 48 or something like that to open up high A. I mean, it was brutal. And then Trent Harris, that's a name that everyone should keep an eye on. He actually got promoted up to Richmond for the last week of the season. He's probably going to be a bullpen arm that I could see pushing into the Giants pen sometime next season. Really, really good stuff. Has absolutely dominated A-ball and high A. Has, mid to high 90s fastball, really good slider. He'll probably doesn't really struggle throwing strikes. Like he actually does a really good job keeping it in the zone. So I could see him moving up quick. But he just got up to Richmond. He'll probably start there next season. Other than that, Sabine Ceballos, we brought him up. His are down there. This guy, I mean, I give credit where it's due. And I'm particularly hard on Farhan for a lot of things. This might have been a good trade. like this. I mean, number one, Soler has been pretty awful for Atlanta, but
he looks pretty built, pretty good. Like
yeah,
he looks cut.
Well, look where this next one goes. I mean, like this guy has made some absolutely loud home runs. I mean, this thing lands on top. I'm pretty sure it lands on top of the.
Wow, he looks a little bit like Ramos's lower body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Farhan was able to pull one off on the Braves, Andropoulos.
He looks like a solid player. It was really interesting because prior to the trade, he had like 3 home runs in Atlanta last season. And all of his last season, he hit 1. He went to University of Oregon, so now he's playing in his old park. But still, like he shows up and he hits 7 and 10. He had 7 home runs and 10 doubles, had like a 900 and something OPS since he got traded at 295. And I mean, none of these home runs have been cheap. Like watching them, like he absolutely pounds the ball. So it makes me wonder, like, how did this guy only have 4 career professional home runs before getting traded here? But
wow,
maybe he figured something out. I mean, I don't know, but he's looking good. I'm excited to see him in the Eastern League next season. Barracoto had a lot of success in A-ball and high A, made it to Richmond, and he's struggled quite a bit there. So, we'll see.
Yeah,
it's a tough league, but
well, that's awesome. Appreciate all the news there, guys. If you want to check Cody out, go check his channel out. It's called Even Your Dynasty Show right here on YouTube. He's putting out all this content on the minor leagues. You'll get more in depth over there, more coverage. You going live tomorrow or?
I got to work it out with the guys. It'll either be tomorrow or Friday. I for some reason I thought it was a day game, so I was like, "Oh, it'll probably be tomorrow." And then I saw it was a night. So
yeah.
I don't know which night I feel like staying up super late.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, Giants win it tonight, 13-2, behind some solid hitting. Yaz hits a big 3-run homer, couple of hits there. Encarnacion home run, and Chapman, what was that, a 2-run shot or so? I can't remember. I think it was a 2-run shot. But
I think his was solo.
This might have been a solo, yeah.
I think Harar's and Yaz's Yaz was a 3.
Yeah.
Harar's was a 2. And
Yeah.
I think Chapman was a solo. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Though.
So, yeah, guys will go check it out. Thanks for being with us at NorCal Sports Network. We know you have other things you could be doing, and we appreciate you being here. Hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Most of you are subscribed, but if you're watching on X, hit the subscribe button over on YouTube. And if you are here, hit that like button. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow night at 9:30-ish after the final game, Giants Brewers. We'll see if my predictions are right. I did say the Giants would win 2 on this homestand and lose 4. I think they lose both series just because they're playing tough teams that are fighting for positioning. And in the Padres case, they got to make sure they don't get the odd man out, because there is 4 teams within about 3 games roughly. So anything can happen. You go on a 3-4 game losing streak, not easy. And you could be finding yourself on the outside looking in just like that. So I think it's going to be tough for the Giants to win tomorrow. And I think it's going to be tough for them to win more than 1 in San Diego, especially after beating San Diego 2 out of 3 in San Diego last weekend. But we'll see. You never know. Yeah. You never know. This is a time of year.
Brewers have pitching tomorrow?
What's that?
Who's pitching tomorrow?
Yeah, pitching for tomorrow. Let me pull up the matchups here. Tomorrow we've got on the hill for the Brewers. It's Frankie Montas against Hayden Birdsong. So
Giants. Hey, Giants knocked Montas around earlier in the year in San Francisco.
Maybe they get it again. Yeah. The scary part is
Birdsong get a good one.
Yeah, that'd be good. Good. Let's see him at least. Go 5+ and look. You want to see these young guys develop. So
he can give them 5 and 2 of 2-run ball.
Yeah.
Honestly, at this point.
Yeah. So Marcus says, see everyone tomorrow. Robert Rothberg says you should rely on my predictions. Robert, tell me how the stock market's going to do, and I'll follow what you say, because you've been so accurate on your predictions with the Giants the last couple of years.
You have the winning lotto numbers too?
Yeah, I kid. Robert came on our show about a week ago and talked 20 minutes on the phone with us, and
nice.
He's actually, I wanted to make sure he was real, because I wasn't sure if this guy really. But he's just an avid Giants fan, and he's just positive. So, but he knows the game.
I'm not here to tell people how to be fans. You want to be positive, you go for it.
He actually is a student of the game. He's been a long-time student. He understands the game well. So he's just. I told him I brought up the definition of a fanatic, and he fit it perfect. He's a true fanatic.
Yep.
So, guys, thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.